Attending a live show is sometimes a mixed bag. There are points where you buy tickets so far in advance you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And for the most part, that's what happens whenever you attend a professional wrestling show. And it happened to me in 2007 when I attended Summerslam. Summerslam was live from the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey in 2007. The main event was John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. And the undercard for the most part looked like it could shape up to be a pretty good pay-per-view. Unfortunately, the Great Khali was in a world title match with Batista, but we got the returns of Triple H and Rey Mysterio, both who were injured and coming back for the first time wrestling on this show. Now, the last old school review that I did was a really great pay-per-view. This one, well, it kind of fell a little short. As a matter of fact, there weren't a lot of things to highlight from this show. The opening match was only ever relevant to me because after you saw Kane defeat Finlay, if you go back and watch this show, there's a young man that they show going like this, clapping after the victory, and it's me. That's right, I'm on the WWE Network. Look it up. Other than that, a lot of the undercard was lackluster. Umaga defeated Carlito and Mr. Kennedy in a match where 3 talented guys wrestled, but didn't really wrestle that great of a match. And on a night where we finally thought that CM Punk possibly could have beaten John Morrison for the ECW Championship, Morrison retained. Now, this is way before the women's evolution, and way before there was any sort of a women's revolution, so we got a women's battle royal to determine the #1 contender for the women's championship. This was a big push for Beth Phoenix as she won the battle royal, eliminating Michelle McCool last. But from there on out, most of the matches seemed to be something that everybody was anticipating. Rey Mysterio and Chavo Guerrero had a good match, and it showed what Rey Mysterio was all about in his return. I can say personally from being there were a large contingent of children in a couple of rows ahead of me that were so excited for Rey Mysterio's return, cheered everything he did, and back then, old Mark Albert over here did everything he could to tease them and rooted for Chavo Guerrero to win the entire time. I'm not saying I was always this way, guys. I used to be one of you. But I digress. From there out, Triple H got a huge reaction when he wrestled Booker T during their match. But it was mostly forgettable and just another match for Triple H and a big return for him, which we knew was going to wind up meaning that Triple H was going to be inserted into the main event picture pretty soon. Something the WWE needed because they were lacking main event stars at the time. What can I possibly say about Great Khali versus Batista? Batista tried. He really did. But as Undertaker could tell you, there's not much you can do with a guy that big, especially when Batista's supposed to be the biggest guy in the ring. There are those times when we want to see the clashes between two giants. And right now, everybody seems to want to see Lars Sullivan take on Braun Strowman. And that could be a good match because both of those men are agile enough to pull it off. The Great Khali is no Braun Strowman, and he's definitely not Lars Sullivan either. And Batista and Khali did the best they could, but their best was never going to be enough. The main event did live up to his expectations. This was at a point where John Cena and Randy Orton had taken over and were the top 2 guys in the WWE at this point. Now, a lot of people came to SummerSlam expecting to see a title change, but it's not what we got. And in a great match with a lot of false finishes, John Cena wound up being victorious. Now, I know the irony, being in East Rutherford, New Jersey, just up the street from where the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view was held, there was a sign that said, "If Cena wins, we riot." Well, at SummerSlam, the fans, they almost did riot. People were screaming, cursing, angry, kicking over garbage cans, almost getting into fights in the tunnel on the way back. Now, I know it may seem a little weird and kind of a little bit trivial. I mean, it's the main event of a pay-per-view, and I understand that's what people are going there for, but at the same point, people were passionate and they were hardcore, and all they wanted to do was finally see the end of John Cena's reign. And we didn't get it. John Cena retained. Randy Orton, once again, was thwarted, and it looked like the John Cena push would never end. Now, SummerSlam wasn't by and far a horrible pay-per-view. There were a lot of good moments, but it just wasn't great. And sometimes when you get to a pay-per-view, you think that maybe, just maybe, it can be a little bit better than your expectations. Well, this, I think, probably met most people's expectations or fell below. It's hard to make everyone happy, but at SummerSlam 2007, it didn't seem like a lot of people were leaving there with a happy look on their faces. It's something that the WWE can really learn from, because with everything, there are some hits and some misses. But this, for the most part, was a miss. This has been Albert Albanese with the Old School Review. We'll see you guys next time.